In the last video, we have installed and configured all the necessary tools so that we can run Flutter apps on the Android emulator. We have then created a sample project and we have been able to run it with the command line tools. The next step is to configure Android Studio so that we can use it as a development environment for building and running Flutter apps. So if we scroll to the bottom of the installation guide, we can find a link with instructions on how to configure our editor. So I'm going to click on this link and we are taken to a page where we can find instructions to configure Flutter with Android Studio or Visual Studio Code. So just so you know, for this entire course I will be using Android Studio with Flutter, but you are completely free to use Visual Studio Code instead if you prefer. On this video, I'll show you how to install the Flutter plugin for Android Studio, so if you're planning to use Android Studio, you can follow along. Or if you'd rather use Visual Studio Code instead, you can skip to the next video. Okay, so I'm going to open Android Studio, and in order to use it with Flutter, we need to install a couple of plugins. To do that, we are going to the Android Studio menu bar, and then we can select File, and then Settings. On the panel on the left over here, we need to choose Plugins, and then we need to select this Browse Repository button that we can see at the bottom. So I'm going to click on this, and on this window we have a search bar, and here I'm going to type in Dart, and then I'm going to select the Dart languages item that appears on the list, and then I'm going to click Install. So this has just installed Dart and proposes to restart Android Studio. Before we do that, I'm going to go back on the search box and I'm also going to type in Flutter, like this. And then I'm going to select Flutter under the list and I'm going to install this as well. I'm going to accept this notice. And now that both Dart and Flutter are installed, we can choose to restart Android Studio. So I'm going to apply this and click on OK. And I'm going to choose to restart Android Studio, like this. I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds and I'm going to be back on this video when Android Studio has restarted. My Android Studio has now restarted, and now if I select File from the menu bar, I can select New, and then I can see that there is an option to create a new Flutter project, like this. And this confirms that our setup is complete and we are good to go. I'm going to cancel this, and just to make sure that everything really is installed correctly, I can open a new command prompt, like this. And in here I can type in Flutter doctor and run this command. And here I can see that both Flutter and Android Studio are installed correctly. There is, however, one warning about some Android licenses not accepted. So to resolve this, we are going to type in Flutter doctor -- Android - licenses and then run this command. This is now loaded all the licenses for us, and it's asking us whether we want to review the licenses that have not been accepted. So we're going to type yes, and then we're going to type in yes again and again until all the licenses have been accepted, like this. And if we run Flutter doctor again, at this stage, we should see that this problem has now gone away. So Flutter is installed and the license warning has disappeared as well. Okay, so that's it for configuring Flutter on Android Studio. So let's continue on the next video.